This is organized by the Access Academy and with 3 people from the Project Access team who are super thrilled to talk to you about our experiences in financing our studies in the UK. And just a bit of housekeeping, feel free to ask any questions throughout in the Q&A chat if you're watching on Zoom. Otherwise, we have plenty of time for questions in the end in the whole Q&A section. So the agenda for today is that we will first quickly introduce Project Access and ourselves. Next, Irene will tell you something about loans from the UK government, and those are pretty useful to fund your tuition fees. Afterwards, we'll then switch to the topic of scholarships, where Anton will tell you something about like where to find scholarships, how to best look for them, etc. Then I'll quickly talk to you about how scholarships is more than just money being thrown at you, and that there are some extracurricular benefits to that as well. And finally, the 3 of us are gonna like quickly present our own story and tell you how we manage like personally to finance our studies. Yeah, and last but not least, as I said before, we have plenty of time for questions and answers. Well, since you're all participating in our webinar, you probably have a rough idea what Project Access is about. But in detail, or more specifically, Project Access is a nonprofit organization who believes in fair access to UK and US universities. And that's why we created a completely free program for students from less privileged backgrounds. So at the core of this program, you might be aware that there's like kind of a one-to-one mentorship program, which is totally free. And you will be matched with a mentor who probably studies your dream degree at your dream university and who will help you kind of navigate through the whole application process. And alongside that mentorship, so that's like not the only thing that's great about Project Access, obviously. We also kind of offer a community of applicants from all around the world, and you will get access to the best content and webinars just like these to kind of help you find your dream degree at your dream university and actually manage to arrive well as well. Because after you be accepted into your university of choice, then you will be able to also meet PA mentees from all over the world and kind of build that awesome community that we already have. So hopefully after this webinar, you'll be super excited. And if you choose to apply to US or UK university, hopefully you'll also join Project Access and you won't regret it. That's what we promise. Right. Yeah, so as you can also see, we are quite diverse in our kind of organization. No, that's fine, Irina, you can go to the next slide. Because now we want to quickly introduce ourselves and then just jump right into the issue of financial aid in the UK. Anton, do you mind starting?
Not at all. So, hi, I'm Anton. I'm a European politics student at King's College London. I'm in my 3rd year and I'll be talking about the places where you can look for financial aid, scholarships, funding opportunities, stuff like that, and what you have to be careful of when you're looking for them.
Right. I'm Leah. Hello, everyone. I just finished my undergraduate studies at Warwick in the UK in philosophy, politics, and economics. And I joined PA about a year ago, more specifically the German team. So we've got country teams and the global teams. Not sure if you're aware of that, but I'm head of the country team in Germany, and we're kind of trying to reach specifically German students. So if you're a German student watching, please check out our Facebook page and also the website, because we've got some great content in German as well for you.
And hi everyone, I'm Irene. I just graduated from King's College London, where I studied politics, and I joined Project Access in December a few months ago, and I'm part of the Italian team as outreach officer. And today I'll be talking about students' loan in the UK. And I think that's where we start. So yeah, students' loan. I'll be talking about the undergraduate and postgraduate students' loan. So the undergraduate students' loan, they are available for British and European students. Then we talk about Brexit and what it means. I'll get to that later. And they cover like partially or in full tuition fees. And they can also be integrated for British students by maintenance loans that still you have to give back with interest. And these loans are based on your household income, and where you're going to study. So for example, if you're going to study in London, you're gonna get more money. And grants are also available for British students, and they're both maintenance grants based on like your household income again, or special support grants, for example, for students with disability or special needs. And the students loans, each student starts repaying them since from when your income is over £2,214 a month, roughly, and you have 30 years to repay the loan with interest. Otherwise, after 30 years, it's going to be wiped out. The postgraduate loans are similar, and they are available for this academic year, again, for British and European students. The difference is that the maximum you can ask for is £11,222, regardless of how much your tuition fee consists of. So in many cases, it does not cover the whole tuition fee, but it can be integrated with scholarship. That's what we're going to talk about later. And again, you have to repay the loan with interest only when your income is over £1,750 a month. So as probably many of you already know, we got a news a few weeks ago, from the British government that European students from the academic year 2021-2022 will lose their home fee status. So what does it mean? That tuition fees are gonna be higher. So basically European students are gonna pay not like home students, British students, but like international students. So tuition fees are gonna be much higher. And also European students will not be eligible anymore for student loans. This was just announced by the British government, so no one knows how it's gonna be put into practice. Also, Wales and Scotland have different like ministers of education and different education systems. So no one knows if it's going to be implemented in Wales and Scotland as well. And also another big question is whether like loans are going to be supplemented by need-based scholarship, like in the US or not. So we're going to still wait and see how the situation evolves, but probably in the future, scholarship are going to play a much bigger role, especially for European undergraduate students. And now Anton is going to tell you about how to find scholarships.
I guess you can go to the next page, Shireen, please. So I prepared a list of places where I personally looked for scholarships and where you might be able to find them. I want to say before that I'm a German student, so my experience is heavily influenced by looking for at German places and within the German system. But they might be applicable in more places. So first, where I would personally start always is just when you're applying to university, or if you know where you want to study, first look at the pages of the universities. The universities often provide loads of programs where you can apply for. They have certain eligibility criteria, but usually they have many programs which span all kinds of eligibility criteria. So you might be eligible for one. So always look there first. Then what they also have besides actual scholarships or funding opportunities is that they often link other government pages where you might find other scholarships or funding opportunities, which could be interesting for you. So what I do first is always very intensely search on the actual university site where you're looking for. Often when you're looking at program information, you'll find them immediately there. there will be a tab or something similar or a link to another funding page, and then I just go from there. Another place where you can always look is social organizations. By that I mean any kind of clubs or socially orientated association. For example, the Red Cross, or for me personally, I know the Rotary Club does it, and the Rotary Club is a global organization, so you might be able to find something there. They often sponsor students that can range from all kinds of stuff, even if it's just supplementary stuff like paying for your books. Sometimes they pay full scholarships. Another one is political organizations and their satellites. You can actually look if political parties sponsor students. Sometimes they have satellite organizations. In Germany, we have those called, those are Studienstiftungen. For example, the Christian Democrat Party has a satellite organization which is called Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and they sponsor political science students. That is an opportunity you should always look for, also at home, wherever you live. Then another one is dedicated portals. By that, I mean quite literally just Google. Go on Google, try to find portals which are dedicated to finding scholarships. They often have loads of junk, but then sometimes you find like these one or two which are really good. I personally also found one on a portal. So that's something I would look for. Then I'd look on government pages, for example, education ministries, or even economy ministries, stuff like that. They often have links to funding opportunities. It's one of the places that often provides the most money, to be honest, because it's state funded. And then the last two are religious associations and student associations. For them, basically the same applies to the ones above. They are often quite keen on sponsoring students because they often expect that they will get something back. So I'd always look for, those are the main places I'd look for. I personally know in Germany, all of these places offer student funding opportunities. And I guess that would apply to a wider scheme all over the world. Because most of these organizations are socially focused, and so they are keen on sponsoring students. The next page, please, Irene. These are my tips, what I would always do when I'm looking for scholarships. First of all, start early, start searching intensely, start searching all over the place. It's really important that you have an idea of which ones would apply to you and which ones you can use, so that you can later, when you're actually doing the application process, that you do not get in a hassle, that you do not mess up any documents, but that you have a clear oversight of what you need for each of them and what you actually are planning to apply for. Then second, check the eligibility criteria. That's really important, because especially if you are looking for party associations or religious associations, they sometimes have certain criteria which you have to fulfill, be it being part of a political party or being part of a church or a certain religious stream or whatever. So you always have to look out for those. If there are any which inherently would cancel them out for you, so that you don't want to participate, or maybe that you can't participate. Then another one, really important one, which I also noticed, is check the funding options beforehand, so that you know what you're actually applying for, and then check if there are any interferences. For example, if you apply for several scholarships, that they don't cancel each other out, or that you're actually allowed to apply for several ones. And then the last one is get active soon and do stuff. And I mean that in two ways. First of all, don't be afraid to ask, which means don't be afraid to ask for information. I personally know sometimes there is nothing about student funding or funding opportunities on the web pages or wherever you're looking. Sometimes it makes sense to just email the people who are responsible, just send a general email to an email address you find, or call them and ask if there are any funding opportunities. That's how I found out about some funding opportunities, because they weren't on the webpage, but lots of people are very keen on helping students out. So just don't be afraid to ask. And another one, which I cannot stress enough, is do extracurriculars. They help tremendously when trying to secure internships. I think Leah is going to talk about that a little bit later, maybe. But it's really important that you do those, because they will help you secure them. They'll just be super beneficial for you personally. And there's loads of things you can do. It's anything from starting to learn an instrument, picking up a sport, trying to volunteer in soup kitchens or any kind of social organization like Amnesty International, Greenpeace, the Red Cross, whatever it is. So really try to get active and try to do some stuff that makes you stand out from other people, because it will help you secure an internship. I guess Leah will take off from here.
I will. Thank you, Anton. So right now you might be thinking, oh, that's like a lot I need to think about. Is it really worth all of the work that I need to put in there? And all I can say that, yes, it is, because there's obviously the financial part to it, but there's obviously also some non-pecuniary aspects that are really beneficial for you, or that can be very beneficial for you. Let me quickly just say as well that my experience is quite Germany specific, and also obviously specific to the foundation that I'm a scholarship holder of. But I really do think that most foundations also have these extracurricular benefits. So don't feel like limited just because there are like 2 German people in here now. Right, so the first thing that came to my mind was business networking. So obviously you have that at universities as well. There are like corporations that try to present themselves, but also most of the foundations that give scholarships out have quite tight knots with those kind of enterprises that you might be interested in working at. So for instance, my corporation partners with some consulting firms, and those consulting firms sometimes also organize workshops that I can like freely participate in. So that has 2 advantages when I actually decide to look for a job. One, I can like actually network at that workshop and like talk to the people and figure out where I can apply, who's the person I can apply to, if I can actually give them my application already now. And 2, if that doesn't work out, or if there's like no opportunity, that always makes your application stand out. If you say like, oh, I've been to that and that workshop with those people organized by your firm, and that was like a great experience, it always makes your application stand out. So that's like one big aspect that you might not necessarily think about when thinking about scholarships, but it actually can help you very well. And then the second part to the business networking point is that there is quite a big alumni network for most of the foundations. So those people who were like in your situation once, who were scholarship holders, they know obviously how hard it is to get into those great jobs. So they're very keen once they made it and once they start working to kind of give back to you and to help you as well. So that alumni network is actually really helpful for you to like just get some information about where to apply, how to apply, some tips and tricks, etc. But it might also help you in like actual job hunting, or even in getting a mentor. Like for instance, we have a mentorship scheme where you can get a mentor who's actually working already and who can kind of give you advice and when you're applying to jobs, etc. Then second of all, the bit more fun part, if you don't want to think about job applications already, because I mean, you probably haven't even started studying, there are scholarship groups for most of the foundations. So for instance, we have a scholarship group based in London, and those are 60 students from Germany who study in the UK. So it's quite great to kind of have a group life and to meet several times a year. And what we do when we meet is we organize kind of workshops and seminars that we want to participate in. So those workshops are super diverse because obviously we can just pick and choose whatever we want. And we cover topics from human enhancement and artificial intelligence over mental health and politics and technology. So basically anything you can think about. And that's super interesting and super rewarding because it allows you to widen your horizon and also to kind of look beyond your study area and your subject area, because you can like experience and dive into new topics, which is super rewarding as well. And again, there's a networking aspect to it because most often the speakers you invite for those seminars are quite like well known in their field as well. So if you want to go, for instance, into academia and you have a workshop about politics, then it might be quite nice to actually connect with the speaker and like get into that as well. Third, and that's, oh, sorry, we've already done that. Thank you. Third, and that's like kind of what I say is the most important part, apart from the whole networking thing, is that you actually meet people who are similar to you, who resemble you in some respect in these scholarship groups, because they all went through the same application process and they have something that made the scholarship choose them somehow. So for me personally, it was amazing to just meet people who are like creative and ambitious and from the same country, and to go through the exact same experiences as I do, studying in the UK. So that's like a very nice way to meet people outside your study bubble, maybe, and also to make friends for life. I know it sounds cheesy, but this is the case. And it makes it also easier for you to adjust to a different culture if you have like a group of people who are similar to you, which you can, or whom you can do stuff with and like go to events, etc. And what is even more in that point is that those people obviously are similar in some respects, but they are also very different to you. So they might study something else, or they might just have different experiences. So it can be super useful for you as well to just see what other people your age are doing, or maybe in your subject area are doing, where they interned, what job opportunities they kind of want to go in, or just like, you know, where to travel next, or what nice spot there is to see in London. So there's a lot of like resource for advice and for information, which can be very useful. And then last but not least, the scholarships offer you also some kind of opportunity to grow personally, and also to kind of give back to society and to have a social impact. Because not only you learn how to, you know, network well in all of these events, but you also have the opportunity to kind of, I don't know, give back. And that can be within the scholarship group for some foundations, or definitely also for society in general. So for instance, in our scholarship group of 60 people, we have different like positions. It's a bit like in societies where you have like the exec who make sure that the whole life of the society works. Some scholarship groups have that as well. So for instance, I was the group representative for those 60 students, which kind of taught me valuable skills like leadership or listening or organizing things, which can be very useful later in life as well. And then on the other hand, many foundations have like social initiatives as well, or even like kind of scholarships. If you're already in the scholarship, if you want to go into entrepreneurship, for instance, they might have academies and workshops where you can develop your skills and actually move forward and develop your idea. So that's very enjoyable as well. So I'd say if you enjoy engaging with many different, ambitious, creative, and smart people just like you, then scholarships can offer you a lot more than just money. And that's what I want you to take away from this. Right, I guess we can go on now and talk about like our personal experiences. Anton, I guess it's your turn.
Okay, so as I said, I'm a German student. When I came to England, or when I knew I was allowed to study at King's College, what I first did was take out a student loan from the student loans company, which I believe is a state-funded company, right? I'm not entirely sure, but basically, basically you take out a loan from you take out a loan from the government, I believe, and it pays the installments of the tuition fees directly to the university, and you have to pay back once you start working. There's a lot of modalities which make it quite fair. You don't have to pay awful amount of money back, in the sense of the interest rates are quite fair and low. And there's also the opportunity to prolong, for example, if you take up a master's degree or a PhD, that you don't have to pay back until you start working. And then it's also adjusted to your income, if I'm not wrong. And on top of that, I have a scholarship of the German foundation called Deutsche Bildung, which means simply German education. From what I found out, it's a private foundation, so it's not state funded. And the way it works is that I get 300 euros per month for 3 years, which is the duration of my bachelor's degree. But it's possible to get up to 450 euros, or a total amount of 15,000 euros, depending on the length of study and which course you're taking. It's individually adjusted. So when you apply, you have to fill out which course you're doing, or which course you're planning on doing, how long it will take, and a few other information. And based on that, they will calculate and propose you an amount of money you can get. And for me, this amount of money is to maintain my household in the sense of buying, buying food, buying groceries, books, other supplies I need. But it does not cover anything like my rent or tuition fees or anything like that. Similar to what Leah just said, we have a really vast extracurricular program. It's mostly centered in Germany, unfortunately, because we do not have, my foundation simply does not have a lot of people who are studying abroad. But they offer workshops, they offer insight days in certain companies in Germany. For example, Procter & Gamble, P&G, some people might know, is one we had this year. We get travels to Berlin or Frankfurt most of the time covered. So that's really great. There's a lot of interesting people. You get to learn a lot practically for work, stuff like that. And one thing that separates my scholarship is that I have to pay a social fee back. So basically, I do not get the entire amount of money just given to me. But once I start working, they will calculate a certain amount of money which I have to pay back, so that I can finance students which will come after me into the foundation. So I can finance them back. The idea behind that is that they are taking up students who they believe have a prospect of a great career, who they believe have a lot of potential, and who will be high earners. So the idea is that I'll be earning a lot of money, so I'll have the money left over basically to finance students once they want to enter the foundation and have their studies financed, so they afterwards can finance the next generation and so on. So that's the social fee payback basically, and that's also individually adjusted according to your salary once you start working, according to your academic achievements, stuff like that. And we also more or less agreed on giving you some advice. So basically, I mean, I told you before what I pay attention to, but what's really important to me is do your research. Basically, take a lot of time looking for internships, for scholarships. Take a lot of time looking for funding opportunities. It's really important that you spend a lot of time on it, because it's not always easy to find a lot. Me personally, I struggled finding some. I found by pure accident by subscribing to a newsletter, which sent me an invite to this foundation, and basically that's how I found it. So that really ties into my second advice: do not be disheartened if everything doesn't work out, because it will take some time to find. It may take some time to find a scholarship. It might take some work to find a scholarship, because sometimes you have to do some stuff which you are not so keen on doing. Maybe you have to do some presentations. Maybe you have to do you hand in a written piece of work. Sometimes it's all of that. Sometimes it's nothing. It's just that you do not need to give up. I know, for example, even if you don't find something for the first year, a lot of foundations offer stuff for the second year or the third year. So it may work out in the end. Just don't give up. That's really important. Who's next?
Right. I think I'm next. Yeah.
Okay.
So my story is not too different from Anton's. I also use the student loan, like the tuition fee loan from Students' Loan Company. It is financed by the British government, basically, which is also, as Irene said, why it's going to be changing next year or like the year afterwards. Yeah, that was pretty useful, because also another benefit of that loan is that they pay directly to the university. So you don't have to make sure that you pay anything and then like you take the money out of your loan or whatever, but they just do it directly. So for you, it's basically just filling out one form, sending it to England, and then everything, like they do everything in the rest, which is super useful. Yeah, and I did that. And you can also, like, if you don't want to be in super like a lot of debt and you somehow come to a lot of money, however, you can also repay it beforehand, which might be quite useful if you don't want to like have your interest payments for the rest of, I don't know, your career or whatever. Not to discourage you, because it is quite a good thing. Yeah, and then next to that, also to kind of finance my living expenses, I have a scholarship of the Foundation of German Business. That's what it's called, and that's actually one of the 13 foundations in Germany which are kind of state funded. Like they don't get their money totally from that, but they are supported by the state, which is also why state regulations apply. And that's also advice for you if you look in your country. Make sure that if it's kind of like a national foundation, that they also like support you in the UK. So that make sure that it actually applies to different countries as well. And especially with the whole Brexit situation, I don't think anyone knows what's going on until the end of the year, until we know whether there's going to be like a hard Brexit or a soft Brexit or whatever. So just be aware that that might be an obstacle and that you have to kind of maybe ask twice about it. Yeah, so it's similar to Anton. Basically, we get 300 euros per month, which is called book money. I mean, I don't really use it for books. You can use it for anything, but that's kind of like a fixed amount of money. And then next to that, you get like an extra need-based amount. So that's based on your parents' income, your family members, etc. So they take a lot of different factors into account, and then you can get up to 600 euros extra. So in total, if you come from like a very, very low socioeconomic background, you can get up to 900 euros per month, which is amazing. Because even if you live in London, that might cover most of your expenses actually. And then second, yeah, we also have like a vast extracurricular program. As I said before, we do have a lot of seminars and workshops also in the UK. There are different groups across Europe as well, but again, it's centered in Germany as well. So there are different academies where you can take part in. There are different workshops with partners, so like businesses, as Anton already said as well. And that's super nice to kind of meet new people and yeah, just to use all of the extracurricular benefits I already talked about. So then my advice is, again, make sure you understand the application criteria. We already talked about that a little bit, but most foundations actually value like social initiative and volunteering experiences. That's at least from my experience. And they also kind of care about if you just started it 2 days ago or if you've been doing it for a longer while. So if you know that you want to apply it to scholarships, but you only start studying, say, in October, it might be a very good idea to already like start volunteering now, wherever you can. Or even if you're not volunteering, you know, as Anton said, like learn a new instrument, whatever, just show them that you're ambitious, that you really want this, and that you also understand what the foundation's values are, because sometimes different foundations have different values, like innovation, entrepreneurship, etc. So it makes sense that you can identify with those values if you decide to apply for them. And then like second point of advice, the application process might be tedious, but it definitely is worth it. So for me, it was an online application, including a personal statement, different references for the hobbies that you actually did, for the volunteering experiences. And it was super hard to collect everything together and then to like send it out. Took me a while to do that. Then there was an interview. For me, it was via telephone, but sometimes there are also Skype interviews. That differs obviously also depending on the corona situation, etc. And then last stage, we also had a 2-day assessment center. And I thought, wow, why do I need to do all of this for a scholarship? Do I really need to fly to Berlin just for that assessment center? And I really like doubted it and wasn't sure if it was worth it. But I can tell you it definitely was. So keep pushing through that application process. Make sure you also know the deadlines to the different stages. And then I promise it's gonna be like a great experience. Irina, do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, so my story is a bit different. I mean, I still got a tuition fee loan from the student loans company for my undergrad, but I couldn't find any additional scholarships because in Italy, there are not that many foundations, and also they're more likely to give funds for STEMs and not like social sciences. That's what I was studying. And so when I decided to apply for masters in the UK, I was a bit scared because they're often like quite expensive, and I didn't really want to take out another loan to find my fund my master degree. But at the end, I got this scholarship. There's the London Interdisciplinary Social Science Doctoral Training Partnership. It's a very long name. And it's funded by the UKRI. So it's the funding from the government department for research or innovation. So basically, LIS, it's a organization that comprises King's College, Imperial, and Queen's Mary University, with the aim to fund students for their PhD or sometimes for their master's and PhD. And I applied for the 1+3, so master's and PhD. So basically, they're gonna the scholarship is going to cover the tuition fees for my master's, and also there is a monthly stipend of around £1,500 throughout the all 4 years. And I will also have the opportunity to have extracurricular events with other funded students, and also like extra training, for example, with research methods or quantitative methods. That's what I want to specialize in. And for me, the application process was very hard, especially because it's like a scholarship for postgraduate studies. And it involved a PhD, so I had to do a research proposal, send my curriculum, my personal statement, ask for references, and also apply, of course, to the master's at King's. So it took me like, I would say, around 2 months to do it all, especially to write the research proposal. But at the end, I mean, I didn't really want to apply at first because I was scared of like writing another research proposal after my dissertation. But at the end, looking back, it was definitely worth it to give it a try and spend a few afternoons working on this application. And then, so my advice is to plan in advance, because as I told you, especially for postgraduate studies, there are a lot of requirements. And if you're looking to go into research postgraduate studies, you're often asked to do a research proposal. So you need to elaborate an idea, write the proposal. Also, like your professors are gonna probably check on what you wrote. So it takes some time. And also my advice for me, how I found this scholarship was thanks to my department and my professor, because I work as a research assistant in my second year. And then I found out through the professor I work with that there was this opportunity at King's. So I decided to apply. And also like this professor of mine and my personal tutor, like really gave me about advice throughout the application process, like for example, on how to write a proper research proposal, like how to improve my personal statement. So that was very helpful. And I would say, especially like if you want to go stay in academia, or yeah, like go into research masters, definitely ask for help from to your professors, because they might know of good scholarships programs that can help you out. And finally, don't be afraid to apply, because even though it might seem very hard to get in, or you're discouraged from all the requirements, it's definitely like, and you do not expect to get in anyway. At least in my case, and I think in many of your cases, it's definitely worth to give it a try and put some effort into it. And I think next we're gonna go with the Q&A. So I think we already have some questions. Also here you can find all our email addresses if you wanna drop us an email asking for anything, like even later today or in the next few days. And yeah, I think we can proceed to the questions.
Okay. First questions. Oh yeah, there was a question. Are Brexit limitations applied to Scotland?
Should I go?
I guess.
So for the moment, the Scottish government hasn't said anything. So it's not really clear. Like the university system is different in Scotland and is managed differently. Like for example, universities in Scotland, like the undergraduate degree is 4 years and is free for European students and British students. No one really knows if it's gonna be applied to Scotland or not. So I guess we might know something in the next few weeks or months.
But I know, I mean, I'm no expert on this, but I know because I had to check as well, because I'm applying to a master's in next year, which also will not count, will be under the new regulations because of Brexit. And I know if you want to have the most up-to-date information, what you should look is the gov.uk website, which is the official government website on education. So you can just Google gov.uk and then click through Find Student Finance, or just Google gov.uk Student Finance. And then there's also the UK Council for International Student Affairs, which also has information on that. Problem is with them, they are a private organization and they are not yet updated on anything. And then, but those are the two I regularly check because they have the most up-to-date information. We have a raised hand. I guess the person wants to talk. Let me just check the other questions and then we'll allow that. Okay. Yes. I think can you talk?
Hello.
Oh yeah. Okay, we can hear you.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Hi, I'm Sanskruti from India. So basically, I wanted to ask, like, what are the scholarship opportunities for international students who don't really belong to the EU? Because for us, it's like 3 times this, the amount that the EU students pay regularly.
Mm.
So how can we basically, search for because they're so generous scholarships and bursaries for the students who belong to the EU, but there aren't really scholarships for international students as much.
That's true. Have you checked the university websites themselves?
Yes, I have, but like most of them, they just don't really have many generous scholarships, and already the tuition is like so high for
that's very true.
outside the EU.
I mean, personally, I don't really know a lot about that, obviously, because we are all, I don't know if the other two know something, but I don't know a lot about that because I'm not, I'm an EU student. What I would do is otherwise, because sometimes the admissions, do you know the admissions offices, sometimes they have information. So if you just email them, they might be able to tell you other places where you can look, which we don't know. Because they are the most helpful people most of the time if you can get through to them. I'd just send an email or maybe try to find out a phone number and try to contact them directly and ask them. Because to be quite honest, I personally cannot give you a real advice, except for the things I've said before. Maybe try to look in India at for certain associations. Social associations might be able to sponsor students, but other than that, I can't give you more advice, to be honest.
All right.
Yeah, I can only agree. The only thing that just popped up in my mind is that when I looked for masters, actually, they do have a lot of scholarships for non-European students. So again, I would say like check the university's websites, because I personally had the experience that as a student from Europe, I was not eligible for most of the scholarships. So that might be only my experience. So in fact, I do think that they really look out for international students as well, especially because you have such high tuition fees. Yeah, but that's the only thing I can say about that as well. I mean, if you want to apply, then apply to Project Access, and maybe your mentor can also help you with that, because we do have a lot of Indian mentors as well who probably had the same issue. So hopefully that might help you as well.
All right, thank you. Actually, I have a question for Leah. So basically, you mentioned that there are scholarships for students who have extracurriculars. So like, can you just briefly talk about which specific scholarships for which extracurricular, like for networking and maybe volunteering? Are there like specific scholarships for these areas?
I see what you're getting at. I don't necessarily think so. I think it's just kind of like a byproduct of the different things. So obviously there are some scholarships where you just get the money, where you don't have like anything else. But I'd say these are in the minority. So once you have kind of like what most foundations or most scholarship giving institutions do is that they really have kind of that seminar program where you can take part in. And those foundations are really keen on also kind of you getting to know other scholarship holders because they want you to be like innovative and get to know, you know, like leaders of tomorrow or whatever. So I wouldn't necessarily say that there are certain foundations which offer certain like benefits, but rather that once you have a foundation which actually like is invested in some sort of extracurricular program, that you will get to all of these benefits that I mentioned. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, all right, I got the idea.
Okay,
All
perfect.
right, thank you.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you.
Thanks.
There was another question. Let me just pop that up. Doesn't really belong to in ours in our webinar. It's, hi, I'm from Pakistan. Please help me. How can I write a good personal statement for my Bachelor of Laws in the UK? That's not what we're talking about. But since you want to have the information, either sign up for the Project Access scheme, because then your mentor will help you with that. And if I'm not wrong, you can look on YouTube for our Project Access YouTube account, YouTube channel, and there's a webinar completely dedicated to writing personal statements, how to write a winning personal statement, Project Access. If you just look for that on YouTube, you'll find loads of information, I'm sure.
Yeah, and also on the Access Academy website, there are also useful resources about how to write a personal statement as well.
Any more questions? Just wait a second. Oh, there's something. From my country who got scholarships. Another question, wait a second, I'll read it out loud. What if my mentor does not have scholarships and I want to speak to someone from my country who got scholarships?
I would like just very spontaneously say that once you have the connection to that mentor will definitely have friends from their same nationality at their university, or at least like in their, I don't know, friend zone or whatever, who probably will, like some of them will probably have a scholarship. So what we also see within Project Access is that sometimes people ask the whole team, like, is there someone from, say, India who has a scholarship who could help out my mentee here? So I don't think that that's going to be like an obstacle. Just kind of ask your mentor to, yeah, I don't know, activate their network somehow and get to know about that.
Yeah, and also adding on to that, Leah, for example, with the Italian team of Project Access, we created a database, and I think a lot of other country teams did the same. So yeah, we created this database with scholarships that were available for Italian students. So it's up on our website. So any person that is interested can just download the file and check like what scholarships are available. Of course, it's not exhaustive, but it's an idea.
I also think, don't you have like Facebook groups for your country? I'm not involved in country groups, just so everyone knows, but you have country groups on Facebook, right? For your from Project Access. So I guess it would also be an opportunity just contact or ask in the group, or even just look on Facebook for student groups, because I would go as far to say all universities have country-based student associations. which have also most of the time have Facebook groups. So you can just ask in there as well if someone has experience with scholarships. Most people are, from personal experience I know are really helpful. So I guess that would be an opportunity. Then next question. What are the problems that students face from getting student loans?
Who wants to? Irina, do you want to?
Um,
Or, I mean, I can also say something if you.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
Well, I mean, for me personally, it was kind of like a mental obstacle to take on a loan, because you know that you're going into debt to finance your studies. So it might be I don't know, like difficult for you to kind of get along with the idea that you have debt that you need to pay back. But then that really didn't bother me too much, because the whole point of getting the loan is that you want to study at a good university so that you get a good job afterwards. And also they're quite fair with like repaying, because as I think Irina said, you only have to pay back a percentage of what you earn. So it really depends on how much you're earning after uni life. So if you if you don't find a job, then you don't need to pay anything back. So that might be an issue, but I think it is quite manageable. And then, well, the only other thing that comes to my mind is like the interest rate. It is fairly low if you compare it to other student loans, but then compared to like usual bank loans in the current kind of low interest rate environment, it might be a bit higher than like a usual loan. I think as of now, I might be mistaken, it's like 3% plus the inflation rate or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like, I wouldn't say a lot, but it's still like something, especially if you keep it for a lot of years. But then again, for me personally, it was kind of outweighed by the whole like elegance of the system, basically. So they do all the work for you, and you don't have to worry about anything. And that would be different if you took out a loan at, I don't know, a different bank in your home country and then try to transfer the money. So I guess those are two things to consider. But then again, shouldn't stop you from taking on the loan. But that's just my personal experience.
I can only agree with that, I'd say. So when I was, for me, taking out the loan was really the only opportunity to actually attend university in England, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to pay for the tuition fees and maintain maintaining living in London, all of that, especially because London is really, really expensive. But another thing, well, one of the obstacles is basically once you start working, the only obstacle you really have is you immediately have debts which you have to pay off. So that might turn off some people. But for me, like Leah, the elegance of the system just persuaded me, and also the situation that I wouldn't have been able to attend university without the loan made me take on one. So more questions. There is no information on student loan company website about help for EU students starting next year, but maybe I'm wrong. Starting next year means 2021. That's correct, because the loans are not available for EU students from then on anymore, if I'm correct. Right, Irene? Isn't that the way?
Yeah,
it's from
and
2021,
also,
right?
Yeah, and also since the announcement has been made, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, and they just made the announcement. They didn't really set out a plan of what's going to happen.
Yes.
So I think that it's like there's still time to see like how they're gonna proceed, like and how universities are gonna react. But I found some very useful resources online. If you just, I don't remember the websites, but just like doing a quick search on Google, there are a lot of information coming out.
Yeah, so the entire situation is still up in the air. Most people don't know what's going to happen. So even if you look on the university websites, which are most of the time the most up-to-date websites, Even they don't have any information, which is really troubling. I'm also planning to apply for master's degrees in 2021, and there's no information so far, so we can't really give you anything. The only tip I can give you is just keep up to date on all the websites, try to look regularly. Maybe there will be some information coming out, but at this point, there's really no way to tell you what's going to happen. Next question. Isn't it impossible to fund your studies completely without taking out a student loan? And now you can't really take out a student loan as a U student. I mean, if you're rich, you can fund them. Not gonna lie, from my experience at King's, there are quite a few people who are really wealthy and finance their studies without loans. Another opportunity is to take out private loans. Which I know some people do. So you go to an actual bank and try to take out a loan for your studies. Some are willing to do it, especially if you're attending a high class and elite university, because then the prospect of getting the money paid back is quite high. But yeah, I mean, technically it is possible to finance that, just not for people who are regular earners or from a lower socioeconomic class. That's very true. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, but then you obviously have like scholarships. So just because all of us have like a tuition fee loan doesn't mean you need a tuition fee loan to fund your studies. So some scholarships there are like exist as well, who like take over the whole amount of the tuition fees. So like Rhodes Scholarship for Oxford or something like that.
For example.
So especially those uni-based scholarships, they really do take over your tuition fees. So especially with the whole insecurity and uncertainty of the situation right now, I definitely recommend like looking into scholarships more rather than like loans. But obviously, like it's best to take every possibility that's available. But it's like it is possible to fund your studies without having a UK student loan.
Okay. Will Brexit impact the amount of scholarships available to students? Anyone who wants to go first?
I can say something. So it's a very interesting question, and of course, like we don't know yet. The thing, like, I think there are two possible scenarios, maybe not mutually exclusive. The thing is that since tuition fees are gonna increase, there could be more scholarships available because actually a lot of European students fund their studies through the student loan, and now there's not going to be available anymore. So maybe there could be an increase in scholarships, maybe need-based scholarship to maintain like a high number of European students in UK universities. On the other hand, there might be problems, especially in European countries, because I know a lot of people, like actually a German friend of mine, that many foundations or private organizations, even especially the government scholarship, are not willing to fund students that go to study outside of the EU. So that could actually impact like European students that want to go to study in the UK. So I think it's still very much to see. I mean, we hope for an increase in scholarships, but we don't really know yet.
Yeah, I can only agree, like out of personal experience with the foundation that I'm in, they said that just because of government regulations, if it comes, like if worse comes to worse and we get a hard Brexit, then they will not be able to fund like new students in the UK, just because of government regulations. Like doesn't have to do anything with the individual organizations. But then again, if there is going to be a regulated Brexit at the end of the year, that's going to be very different. So just because Brexit is happening doesn't mean that like a lot has to change to the worse. But there is the opportunity that if there is a hard Brexit, it's going to be like a problem. So really depends on how the UK government is going to manage the situation going forward.
Okay. I I'd agree with the experience, especially since I'm also German. I have also noticed that as when I started applying for scholarships and now that I'm looking for them, lots of them are not available at the moment because there's so much uncertainty with Brexit. So unfortunately, my experience with that has been negative so far, but I really hope that they will increase, especially university scholarships for EU students, because it's going to be terrible if all the EU students will have to pay overseas fees and will just go missing, basically, at the British universities. I know that lots of Eastern European students, friends of mine, wouldn't be able to fund all these expensive tuition fees if there were overseas fees. So all of those would be missing. So I'm really hoping, but so far it's really up in the air. And then last question so far, I have completed all the process of project access, signing in, but I didn't get an email whether it is accepted or not. When will I be able to be part of project access? So there's, I guess I can answer that because I'm working on the product and the platform itself. So it doesn't really belong here, but I'll just do it quickly. So basically there's, the way we do it is we have programs. So every month we have new cohorts and they will be signed in and they are hand matched with mentors. So what happened, might have happened here, either that you haven't been matched yet, or that you will receive your email in the next few days and will be assigned to the next month's cohort. But if you want to be sure, you can send me an email because I'm in contact with the person who's responsible. My name is Anton Lammers, the UX officer. If you just send an email to the email on screen, antonlammers@projectaccess.org, and describe your problem again, I'll forward it to the person who's responsible, and then you'll get an answer to your personal email, and we will see to it. I hope that answers your question. So that was the last question. Any more questions from the people remaining? Otherwise, I guess we can call it a day here. We'll just wait a few more moments if any questions come in. Do you two have anything to say? Anything that should be said? Me neither.
No, yeah, I would just add, I said it at the beginning, but if you come up with any question and you want to contact us on our emails, even maybe like if we cannot really answer that, we can forward it to someone in Project Access that might be more competent to answer your questions. So yeah, definitely contact us if you need anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, don't hesitate to ask any questions, even if you think they're silly questions. We'll be sure that we can answer them or find a person who can.
Okay, since there are no more questions, I say we call it a day. Thank you for attending. It was a great pleasure helping you all. If, like the other said, if there's anything, just contact us personally on our emails, which are on screen. And otherwise, you'll be able to find this webinar on our YouTube channel, Project Access. Oh, did I get another? No.
Oh, just a thank you.
It's just a thank you. Oh, thank you.
So cute.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Okay. Thank you to everyone, and then I'll end the webinar. Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Goodbye.